everybody, and thank you so much for joining me today. So we're going to talk about how Ramini Street can work with you to accelerate your digital agenda and at the same time take costs out of your business. And as Jason had alluded to, I love a lot of interaction. So if what I'm talking about today inspires you in any way, please feel free to punch your questions in the chat. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that maybe some of you may not be familiar with Ramini Street or our service model, okay? So Ramini Street is the leading third-party support provider for Oracle and SAP ERP applications. So that means on a day-to-day basis, we support, maintain, and even run these systems on behalf of our clients, right? So these systems include SAP, Oracle E-Business Suite, JDE, Siebel, PeopleSoft, as well as post-implementation systems and for Salesforce deployments. We also support database workloads, and that'll be pretty interesting, and I'll talk about that more in the latter part of my presentation, okay? So let's get to the agenda here. Now, part of my role here at Ramini Street is working with our clients to help them get more business value out of our services. And to prepare for our conversation today, I reached out to a lot of your colleagues and peers across our client base. And they really gave me some good feedback in terms of what's top of mind for digital transformation. So for our conversation today, we're going to focus in 3 areas. Number one, what they played back to me in terms of their IT spending priorities, as well as some observations that we have in terms of what's happening in the retail industry. We're also going to talk about some of the common operational challenges that our clients have faced, right? Well, loosely translated, that means hidden costs. So I'll take you through some of those. And then finally, I'm going to take you through some case studies where we've partnered with our clients to unlock working capital and find more self-funding projects in service of their digital agendas. Okay, so, and we'll open it up to Q&A at the end. All right, so this represents some of the folks that I reached out to in preparation for our discussion. A little bit more about Ramini Street. So over 200 global retailers have moved their maintenance and support services to Ramini Street. That means that we support their mission critical ERP applications. Ramini Street is a member of the National Retail Federation as well. And I guess maybe this slide looks like it's a little bit of a NASCAR slide, but it's important. This is actually one of our most thriving industries and verticals that we support today. And when I spoke to our clients, they really helped me understand, okay, where are they really spending the most money in terms of digital transformation and innovation? Well, it's no surprise that number one was really artificial intelligence, right? Or data mining. And that was really in service of customer loyalty programs, right? Or customer experience. So it's things like shopping cart analysis, right? For better merchandising. Or maybe it's just analysis to prevent or look at fraud detection. In the digital realm, many of our clients are spending a lot to enhance their search and recommendation engines online. And we have found that particularly the last couple of years, many of our clients are spending a lot of money developing algorithms that can be much more smarter at predicting buyer behaviors. Okay, so that's a huge area of spend for many of our clients. Now, in terms of supply chains, right, a lot's been happening in this area over the course of the last year and a half. And I can tell you that during the pandemic, our clients doubled down in terms of statistical forecasting, investing in software that can help them with better demand planning. Okay, and those were huge areas of investment. Some of our more progressive clients were looking to invest in multi-channel shipping software immediately to help get their goods and services to market much faster with not a lot of disruption. In terms of store operations, loss prevention is still a top priority for many of our clients. And again, some of our grocers and some of our retailers have invested in smartphone-enabled high transaction scanning systems for pick, pack, and ship, and to help improve their curbside delivery. So there's a lot of innovation that our clients are looking to invest in. And many of them also shared with me that they're increasingly seeing their buyers and their consumers really interested in their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, right? So a lot of consumers out there are really going to look for those scorecards if they want to be affiliated with your brand. And I know that many of our hospitality and service clients are still struggling with brand image, and there's a lot of nervous travelers out there. All right. So when I talk to our clients, these are the areas that represent most of what they're prioritizing for their IT spend. But in the course of the same conversation, the realities actually set in. There was significant challenges in terms of unlocking budget and capital needed for those transformational activities. Many of the CIOs and IT leaders that I talk to on our client base, they continue to make too many trade-offs in terms of project loads, and many of them are in a situation where upwards of 90% of their budget is just spent on keeping the lights on, right? Or just operating existing software systems or enhancing existing systems that they've already paid for. And some of them only have 10% of their budget available for real business transformation that can really drive a competitive advantage for their business. This budgeting model is not sustainable, specifically for this industry. Now, when I talk to our clients about common operational problems, they really surface back to me some of their challenges in 3 core areas. Now, the first area is some of the costs or hidden costs that come with upgrading or migrating their existing ERP systems for the sake of innovation. In fact, some of them have even expressed to me that they really don't see their Oracle or SAP applications as a platform for innovation anymore, but it's a very necessary part of running their business. Now, the second area is this. IT leaders have shared with me that increasingly there's a lot of friction and a lot of challenges in meeting key project milestones and IT service levels for the business for their business users. There just seems to be a lot of noise and a lot of things are getting in the way and a lot of friction in terms of IT service delivery. And then the third area, the moment you move a lot of your business online and digital, the bad actors are right there following you. So a lot of our clients are very concerned about really spending to get increased visibility to malicious behaviors and fortify their core systems. So let's do this. Let's break down each of 3 areas and look at them individually. Okay, so the first area. So I talked to our clients and asked them, do you really believe that your SAP systems in this particular example is really delivering the innovation that you need for your business? So what you're looking at is analysis that was done by a company called Panya. Now, Panya specializes in SAP upgrades. Okay? They looked at all of the features and functionality available in SAP EC6 Enhancement Pack, ECC Enhancement Pack 6. Okay? And what they discovered was not all of the features and all of the code sets were actually being executed. So if you look at these charts, and you look at SAP operations and sales and service module and the procurement modules as an example, you can clearly see that it tops out at 13% of the actual code sets that get executed for innovation. That means that we're doing all of these upgrades and spending a lot of activity thinking that we're getting the benefits, but the reality of what this analysis proves is that these code sets rarely find their way through to production. Now, what I want to do is pause and take a big step back and look at the bigger picture. There's a lot of hidden costs in ERP. So these are the average costs in terms of annual maintenance that a pool of 70 Ramini Street clients were paying to Oracle and SAP on an annual basis. So you're looking at for 1 year, spending $2 million with Oracle or SAP to maintain the systems, right? Now, the rule of thumb is that for a major upgrade, you double your maintenance costs, or $4 million, over a period of 5 years to execute that upgrade, right? So annualized, that's $800,000 a year in costs, all right? Now, many of our clients are highly customized. They have a lot of customizations that tend to break as a part of the upgrade cycle. Our clients have to go back and fix those, right? Because customizations aren't included in SAP and Oracle maintenance contracts. Those customizations are on our clients. And then finally, right? If you look at every time you get a fix from Oracle or SAP, it's typically bundled, right, with a software release or enhancement pack, and that equates to $600,000 a year in regression testing to get those fixes through to production, right? So if you look at the left-hand part of the slide, this is the model we built after 15 years of being in business over many landscapes. And it really is the reality of the costs that our clients face. And you contrast that with the annual maintenance spend or annual spend with Ramini Street. On average, these 70 clients spend $1 million a year with Ramini Street with us. We don't charge them extra for their customizations, right? And they've made a decision to sit and wait, and they may have a little trepidation in terms of Oracle and SAP's roadmap, right? Now, when these clients come to Ramini Street, they still own the software licenses that they paid Oracle and SAP good money for. And their support experience with Ramini Street is dramatically different. We have a high touch model. Each one of our clients gets a primary support engineer. That's the good news. Now you can clearly see there's millions of dollars of hidden costs in these systems. Okay. So before I move on to number 2, I guess, Jason, are we seeing any questions in the chat at this point? I just want to check in with you.
There is a question here from Jason Atwood. Yes, I think I heard you say that your customers invested in RFID over the past year. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Cool, straightforward. Another quick question here from Harry Almeida. How is the cost calculated on hidden costs for ERP? Is it based on a specific size organization? I assume that a smaller company would have less cost.
Yes, and you're absolutely correct. So in this model, we included, these are mid-sized companies, but let me give you an example. For this model, one of the 70 clients was an Oracle EBS client that was with us for a good 5 to 7 years. And she had 15 million lines of customized code, 15 million, right? And that wasn't supported in what she paid from SAP and Oracle. I can break down it and provide you the cost modeling and calculations. We actually have a very sophisticated spreadsheet that'll make your eyes bleed in terms of how we calculate this. But after 15 years, we've really found that these equations really help to give more transparency to these hidden costs and what you can do about them. Okay, any more questions?
Not right now, thank you. Keep them coming, folks.
Yeah, thank you, good questions. Okay, so before I move on, I just want to set the stage. So when our clients move from Oracle to SAP under our support, what we typically find is they also have a contract in place, an agreement in place with a managed service provider or maybe a global system integrator, right? So, I mean, it's very common for IT service delivery in the ITIL model to have a 2 or 3 vendor model, right? So in our scenario, SAP and Oracle is removed from the equation, and Ramini Street will still cooperate with the managed service vendor or the SI that our clients have in place, right? So typically they've contracted with these systems integrators to do run and maintain mode for these systems. And our clients would log service requests and probably a higher volume of tickets with them. So here's where I'm going with this, okay? Is that for 15 years, Ramini Street has had a front row seat to these service delivery models from these traditional outsourced managed service providers and these system integrators, right? In a climate where maybe we're seeing a slowdown in major upgrades, okay? And we still work with a lot of these vendors and a lot of these companies in very good ways to manage client satisfaction and make sure that our clients are confident in their ability to deliver against their performance levels. But we actually discovered one very unique situation with one of our clients. So I was in an EBR, I think it was about a year ago, with one of our, again, as an SAP example, one of our SAP clients who had been with us. I think Mark was with us for about a year and a half. So he moved his SAP support over to Ramini Street. And as a part of our conversation, he mentioned that, he really was very frustrated because he was done upgrading a few years back, right? And his project load really wasn't that heavy, but there still was a lot of stuff that was breaking. And we saw that reflected in our own ticket queues. So I asked Mark, I said, okay, well, can you help me understand a little bit more about your managed services model? And he had mentioned that he had outsourced that to a company that had primary operations out of India. So it was an offshore model, right? So we had worked with this very reputable vendor for a number of years. So, and that particular vendor was supporting Mark in a run and maintain mode, meaning that Mark was steady state, right? And so I asked Mark, would it be okay if we could take a peek into the ticket queues and the service requests and the enhancements and the incidents that you're logging with this vendor and their ticketing systems? And I want to be very, very clear on this. So what I asked Mark for was a view into all of the cases and all of the tickets that were not in Ramini Street's queue. Remember, we took over for SAP support, but Mark still had a relationship with a managed services vendor. And we thought, okay, can we just look at that? So he gave us an export from his ITSM system. So the graphic you see reflected in this slide is a view of exactly what was included in that export. So we analyzed close to 5,000 historical service requests and incidents, right, that our client had logged with this other vendor. And we looked at the data from a couple of different perspectives. We wanted to understand what was the overall level of effort, right? So, how many things were really breaking and how many administration tasks were really happening across his SAP landscape, right? Because a lot of this activity was really front-ending a lot of what we're seeing in our ticket queues, okay? So we discovered a few things, right? Of all of the tickets we had looked at from, I think it was January 2018 through October of 2020, we noticed that half of those tickets were service requests and very common and easy administrative tasks. We also noticed that the level of effort from when the time a service request was opened to the time that vendor was able to close that service request was an average of 20 days in some cases, right? The backlogs continue to grow because the current vendor wasn't able to keep up. Now, we did a little bit more reconnaissance when I talked to Mark, and here's what we discovered, is that this vendor, because they had an outsourced model, many of the resources that were supporting Mark's SAP environment were very junior resources. Fundamentally, they didn't really understand how the SAP software was designed to work in the first place. So there was a lot of things breaking that fundamentally should not have been breaking. And so I asked Mark, I said, okay, well, maybe we can work with this vendor, maybe do some knowledge transfer. And Mark looked at me and he said, stop. You mean I have to pay two separate vendors to solve a problem? Like, okay, so I guess I can probably see where he was going with that. But then I kind of broke some bad news to Mark. So what we had learned is, and what we were seeing in terms of the break fix activity on our end in our individual service queues, is that we were proactively fixing what his service vendor was breaking. That's how bad it was. Now, it wasn't happening all the time, but we did surface a few instances where the vendor just didn't have enough experience across his landscape, right? So it kind of made sense, he's done upgrading, he doesn't have a lot of heavy project loads, coming up, but things were still breaking. And so I asked Mark, I said, listen, if your business users came to you next week and asked you, okay, I'm going to reprioritize these projects, I'm going to add these 20 new projects, Mark, what would be your confidence level that your team could deliver against those project loads with the operating model that you have in place today? Well, he said, Anne, my business users would be very suspicious. And I thought, okay, well, that's just not good. All right, I'm going to continue and then we'll open up for questions here. So what I wanted to do was I promised to share with you some of our client case studies and some examples of how Ramini Street was able to unlock working capital. So what you're looking at is a case study with our client, Iguanami. They're based out of Brazil. So they actually service very high-end retail brands. So they they actually manage and own a lot of shopping centers. And they were experimenting the last couple of years with new store formats. The brands that they support is Gucci, right? Tiffany, right? So Coach, a lot of Calvin Klein, a lot of very high-end brands that my husband doesn't seem interested in buying for me. But anyway, so they have their buyers and their users are extremely high-end. So they came to Ramini Street back in 2016. They made the emotional and spiritual decision to move away from SAP for product support. So beginning in 2016, they entrusted their SAP systems to us, and we began to support that and provide break-fix services. We helped that CIO meet a specific budget target at that time. It gets better. That CIO decided to expand his service catalog with Ramini Street to include management services. So in 2019, we actually expanded our services catalog with him to offer and support service requests and front end a lot of the incidents, right, that he was experiencing. He had been working with a boutique systems integrator and another vendor for over 10 years. But after about 3 years of us getting used to his environment, he felt that, you know what, Ramini Street, I understand that you're supporting my environment. I want you to run my environment. That was a very, very good decision. So he simplified his vendor mix, right? And in 2019, we partnered with Iguanami and helped them launch two very, very business critical applications. One was Iguanami 365, which is an e-commerce platform. And the second one was Iguanami One, which was a loyalty program, a very high-end loyalty program. And those applications and those platforms went live towards the end of 2019, tested, and were working very well in the early months of 2020. And I can tell you right now that a lot of things happened in 2020. This particular company was set up very well for success because we enhanced their systems, put the interfaces in place, and got those programs and those applications launched. As a matter of fact, those particular applications truly helped Iguanami stay online through 2020 because of the impact of the pandemic. So, and finally, we've actually helped Iguanami fund internal automation programs as well in terms of invoice approvals. And it obviously optimized their overall IT performance. I think the big bogey here for you and the key takeaway is in the course of our relationship since 2016, we've unlocked $4 million of working capital with Iguanami. Number one, offsetting the maintenance costs that he used to pay with SAP. And number two, getting applications and reducing their backlogs and reducing the amount of noise that it took for the care and feeding of his applications. Okay. So what I wanted to do was provide another case study and another example with NIPCO. Again, this is SAP systems here. So NIPCO is a client of ours. We started supporting their SAP environment in 2019. Very quickly after moving their SAP support business to us, we started to manage those systems. In the middle of 2019, NIPCO was having problems sourcing the right talent. They had lost 2 key resources in their management services operations. NIPCO did not outsource any of their management services. They actually supported it in-house, but they had lost the skills that they needed. And they were really struggling with staff augmentation approaches, right? They didn't have the right skill sets in market for in the regions and the markets that they actually had their facilities. So we approached NIPCO and said, you know, how about an always-on engineering model, right? How about we expand our services catalog with you so that we move from just maintaining your systems to actually running them? And we did that, right? And here's some of the impact that we were able to deliver to NIPCO. So 85% average incident close rate, right? So this is a very key metric. In 2019, when we inherited the managed services business at NIPCO, it took NIPCO an average of 22 days to close a combination of incidents and service requests, right? I think it was about maybe 600 that we inherited in day one. Within the first 6 months of us actually running their systems, we delivered an average of 2.5 days of close rate, meaning that from the moment that an incident or service request was open, it took over 20 days. When we got involved, we took that down to 2 days. Now, what did we do? Reduce the amount of effort. And when you do that, you tend to reduce the backlogs, you reduce the noise, right? And you actually, we were able to unleash some of NIPCO's AMS resources to work closer with the line of business users. Now, we accomplished all of this in the first 6 months. And I can tell you right now, it was good news for NIPCO because they were able to scale operations. In 2020, they went on an acquisition spree. They actually took out some of their competitors using the pandemic as an opportunity to do that. And finally, our managed services catalog in conjunction with our maintenance and support services does include enhancement hours, right? So we'll work with our clients to scope these enhancement hours based on what they need. And our engineering capability and our expertise in SAP is so good that we actually removed a significant amount of manual processing that we uncovered. And this is through our preventative maintenance, right? So we actually removed over 400 hours of manual processing and material tracking, right? We actually automated and delivered more throughput for their invoicing and EDI integrations, right? So that means they were able to invoice faster, and we improved their cash flow. For NIPCO in Q4 2020, this is about $20,000 in cash, but that was a big deal for that client, okay? So, you know, I remember the number 2 issue that our clients faced were really just bloated backlogs or artificial backlogs. Ramini Street has proven time and time again that with our engineering expertise, our preventative maintenance, and our proactive support, we're actually able to reduce the amount of effort it takes to support these systems. Now, I'm going to go ahead and lead into a third example, right, of a client that came to us, and this I think was about 2015, right, with the goal of really fortifying the database layer in their IT stack. So this is a global tire retailer and manufacturer. And when they came to us, they were really in a pickle. Okay, I don't think I can say it any better than that. They were really in a pickle. So they had over 2,000 Oracle database instances that were no longer supported by Oracle. Okay, and they were facing an infrastructure refresh and potential upgrade of the databases from Oracle that equated to $10 million of capital. So they were really in a scary situation. Now, I mentioned, in previous client examples, we take over, run, and maintain our SAP landscapes and Oracle and PeopleSoft landscapes. But we also take over support for database footprints as well. So we worked with this client to understand exactly, what their operating model looked like. And they had one big, fat, huge concern, right, that they surfaced to us prior to moving over to our support and having us looking after their database environments. And that was this: when they move from Oracle to Ramini Street, they no longer were able to receive CPUs or maybe some of the security patches, right, that they relied on from Oracle. And then we asked them, be honest with us, how fast were you able to actually execute and move those patches and take advantage of those patches? And it was a little bit of a quiet conversation. They were quiet. And we said, listen, we got you handled. As a matter of fact, we already solved for this at Ramini Street. 8 years ago, we entered into an OEM relationship with McAfee. We OEM'd advanced database security, okay? So that include virtual patching capabilities. So this is software that continually analyzes the database memory, right? And looks for anomalies and actually will prevent attacks from actually getting to the database. And these are known and unknown vulnerabilities. And that was the one Achilles heel of Oracle's patching model, is that it really didn't leave a lot of room for unknown vulnerabilities. And we all know there's a lot of bad actors that really are aiming for your databases. So for this particular client, we really satisfied their concern, right? And said that we can really fortify this environment. We can run the environment and make sure that it's secure. But it got even better, right? Because with advanced database security, we were able to run a data feed from the ADS or from the management console into the client's Splunk application. And for the first time, the security operations team actually had a transparent view, right, of what was really happening across their database environment, right? So it was a huge benefit. And also the ADS management console gave our client the ability to print out reports, which of course they gave to their compliance teams. So we took over support, we fortified the environment, and we also automated it for them. Now, through today, they've actually reduced this footprint, this database footprint, considerably to control compute costs, and they've moved to AWS as well as open source type of technology. But, back in the day, if you look at that $10 million and what they did with it, they actually invested in a new point of sale systems and in the retail stores to really help with upgrading those systems. And that was a real business need in terms of their client experience. So there's just some case studies in terms of how we've worked with our clients to unlock capital. Now, I want to pause here because, many of you may be thinking, okay, I don't really understand how this works, Anne. Are you a third-party service provider or are you a managed service provider? Well, both. So again, 15 years ago, if you look at the bottom half of this slide, we broke the models that SAP and Oracle had in place, right? You would go to Oracle, you would go to SAP, you'd license your software, and then you'd contract and sign a maintenance agreement for Oracle and SAP to support that software. No, we actually entered the market and actually built a market where you don't have to rely on Oracle or SAP for support, and we'll support your customizations, and you get a primary support engineer. You don't have to deal with escalations or work with online knowledge bases. Now, here's the kicker. The way we built up this model 15 years ago is that we don't work out of contact centers. Ramini Street doesn't work out of call centers as well, which came in very handy during the pandemic because many companies were caught flat-footed, right? So from day one, every single one of our support engineers actually works from home, which really helped us with higher-end staffing. We give them enough broadband access and the productivity tools that they need to support our clients globally. Many of our engineers have an average of 15 years of experience So we have one of the lowest turnover in terms of software engineering expertise in the industry, which I think averages about maybe 24%. We're below 4% in terms of turnover. So that's actually how we started our model, right? Is really getting in there and saying, okay, there's alternatives. And many companies, I'm surprised that they don't really realize that they can actually run and maintain their system separately, or many of them think that maybe they have to self-support. So that's the bottom half of the slide. 5 years ago, Ramini Street also observed some anomalies in the managed services market, right? Now, remember, we still work alongside many managed service providers and system integrators. Our clients are still working with these companies for major upgrades, or maybe it's replatforming, right? Our clients work with companies like Accenture and Capgemini and Wipro for business transformational initiatives, or maybe additional DevOps capacity, IoT and sensor data ingestion, or edge computing. Well, a lot of those managed services companies can have that business. But what we discovered 5 years ago is their core managed service business, the run and maintain for ERP systems on premise, that business is under pressure, right? And I think I surfaced some of the concerns that we saw from our own clients in terms of bloated backlogs. And the reality is that many of these companies actually, how their model works with managed services, it's just benches and benches and benches of low skilled resources, right? So we, 5 years ago, actually stepped into the managed services market. So we actually have a catalog that we deliver to the market today that includes the bits in the yellow, right, which is the core break, fix, and maintenance, as well as an expanded service catalog offering for managed services. So the third-party application support, SLA, or the bits in the yellow. If you come to us from Oracle or SAP support, we actually deliver our services based on a response-based SLA, right? And our clients can choose of all the issues they log with us, if it's a P1, P2, or P3. We don't tell them what a P1 is, they tell us, right? So we have an average response time for our clients for any issue, 10 minutes or less. They're actually physically talking to a person, okay? For the bit in the managed services bit in blue, for our clients who expand their services with us and to our managed services catalog, that is a resolution-based SLA, right? So you graduate to a resolution-based SLA. So let me give you a different view of how these services work. What you're looking at here is the ITIL service delivery model, right? Which is typically level 1 help desk. That's not in the scope of what we provide, right? And you have level 2 and 3, and then level 4, okay? 15 years ago, Ramini Street started with level 4 third-party application support, right? So that's where our business was born. We got really good at preventing things from breaking and fixing things that break. And responding to things, and very good at preventative maintenance as well. And we amassed a significant amount of engineering talent with very, very deep expertise in root cause and problem prevention. 5 years ago, you see the stuff in the blue, we actually expanded our catalog to offer our clients the ability for us to front end a lot of the tickets that we saw coming into our queues, right? So our catalog includes unlimited incidents, unlimited service requests, as well as unlimited admin tasks. Now, I'm going to overemphasize unlimited, right? Because this is a key piece of our value proposition. We are so confident that we can keep your systems from breaking that beginning next week, if you're using our managed services, you can log 2 tickets with us or 200,000 if bad things happen, like a pandemic. So anyway, it's on us. It's on us. We have to absorb spikes in your business when things really start breaking. And I can tell you that's a key value proposition for many of our clients, that they don't have to worry about expanding we flex with their business, right? So if you look at the combined catalog and what we deliver, it's an unlimited model with continuous improvements built in. It's a run and maintain model with preventative maintenance. And I've proven that in some of the data that we looked at. Single source vendor, right? So we see even, in a couple of years from now, we know you're going to change your vendor mix, right? So for those of you that are looking to consolidate vendors, and for those of you who don't want to pay 2 separate vendors to solve a problem, I think we're a very good option. And finally, the industry leading response time SLA. So when things are broken, we hop on it, right? We fix it. And our clients reflect back to us an average of 4.8 out of 5 in satisfaction. Every ticket we close, we automatically survey the client, right? So a lot of clients, it's really real time. So we respond. And then of course, as I had explained, when you contract with Ramini Street for both product support, which is in the yellow, and you expand your services catalog to include the items and the services in the blue, you get a resolution time SLA. We've structured that resolution time SLA around a 4-hour commit to fulfill the most common service requests, like add new user. I need access to this particular application, right? Stuff that is so simple, open and close, open and close. It should not lead to a backlog or a queue of backlogs. So I've given you the industry view, and I've given you kind of the ITIL view of how our services work. I really hope it helps you appreciate and understand what your experience would look like with Ramini Street. If I have any Ramini Street clients that are here as a part of our session today, thank you for your business. I want to mention that. And then finally, we started this presentation with me promising you evidence of where we were able to unlock working capital. And I can tell you that after 15 years in this business, we've returned $5 billion back to the market that we helped create. We've unlocked a significant amount of capital and met budget targets for many of our clients consistently with good quality service delivery. Now, that may have broken some vendor models that you may have been used to, but I'm telling, for many of you who may be considering a move to cloud, replatforming, right, or maybe moving to best of breed, we're completely agnostic, right? We're a pretty good option if you want to reduce your run and maintain costs as a part of that transition. That's a very strong use case for a company and the services that we provide. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and conclude the presentation. So Jason, hopefully I'm in good time here. So that's Ramini Street. So I just wanted to go ahead and open up to any questions.
Of course, and we do have some. Thank you very much, Anne. So I'm going to jump straight in. We're over time, but we don't have a session straight after this. So I'm going to make sure I get through all of this. So first and foremost, you mentioned clients. Yes, Michael Mahar said in the audience there to us, happy Rimini Street customer here. We have a great success. Support and cost reduction movement to Rimini Street. Happy to share our experience with anyone interested. So that's always great to have an
Thank you.
Audience. Yes, indeed. So let's dive into these questions. So going back to one of your slides previously, but one audience member asked, how do you anticipate those 50% cases and overcome it from creating enough noise after spending a lot on upgrades and prevent it from becoming a resume generating event?
Yeah, I think if I follow where the question's leaning into, so over 15 years, you can bet that we have grabbed our dustpan and our broom and cleaned up after a lot of our client major upgrades, right? Because during an upgrade, a lot of backlogs happen, and we get that, right? So with our preventative maintenance model, we have expertise in root cause, and we know how the software is designed to work, but it's more than that. So keep in mind, we support customized code, and custom code is pretty much built around business processes that are very important to you and how you want that software to work. So our engineers have very deep expertise in helping our clients evolve their business processes, taking out steps, right? Or in many cases, it's as simple as a business user just wants a new report written. Well, that shouldn't be a scope in a new project. So just inherently in our DNA, we've become so proactive, even to the extent, and now I'm not quite sure what the resume building thing is, so ping me offline on that one, or just hit me up in LinkedIn. But you know, we're so good that one of our, and this isn't me bragging because it's been a long pandemic and I have 4 teenagers here at home, so I'm really tired and I don't have energy to brag. But one of our clients says, you guys are so proactive. We actually have stepped in time and time again and did knowledge transfer sessions with the SI or the resource through the management services vendor. And that happened more times with some of the resources that were sourced out of India or offshore models where they just don't have the experience. Our guys have 15 years experience, right? So we would, more often than not, we'll step in and actually teach some of these resources. We'll only go so far because our clients look at us and they're just like, why don't you guys just take over? Why don't you guys just run these systems on our behalf? So hopefully I've answered your question. I wasn't quite sure about the resume thing, but please, it's Anne Plese, so just ping me on LinkedIn and I'll make sure I get to you, okay?
Thank you very much. Another question, what length of time should someone expect before seeing an ROI after an ERP implementation with Ramini Street? How does this compare to industry average?
Sure. So we don't do ERP implementations. So I want to be really clear. So our model is typically post-implementation when you've moved into more of a run and maintain mode, right? Or maybe you've got a functional roadmap that dictates how you want to roll out the software and the future releases from Oracle and SAP. I want to be very clear. We don't do the implementation of your ERP software. That's not our model. We come in after the fact and we reduce your overall support costs. So how quickly? For many of our clients, it's day one. So we reduce their maintenance spend by 50%. That's always been our model, right? Because we don't have the same value chain that Oracle and SAP had, right? They use sometimes their support and maintenance organizations to drive R&D, right? So in our model, we don't do the implementation, but we do understand what functional roadmaps and what features are most valuable for our clients post-implementation. So hopefully I've answered your question.
Excellent, thank you very much. Another question here, what was the primary driver for the Brazilian CIO to move over to Ramini Street? Was it a service level or cost related decision, and how much of the decision was related to automation and backlog reduction?
You bet. So cost. So back in 2016, Iguatemi was acquiring a lot of different companies, acquiring and investing in commercial and real estate. And they were really experimenting with new store formats, and they really had to prove and provide these services, again, for very high-end retailers. So he came to us, it was really a cost play, but behind the curtain, I think that there was a lot of trepidation in terms of his SAP real estate. I don't think there was a lot of interest in HANA or S4 at that time either. And I think you're struggling to get more value out of the software that he had already purchased and owned. So it was really cost drivers, right? Where we had to hit a specific budget target for him. That's something we're really good at, right? But once we actually get in there, we ended up fixing a lot of the backlogs that we inherited. I guess the ROI for management services is really in year one, right? To the extent that we can reduce your backlogs, we can reduce the noise, we can stop things from breaking over and over again. So when he adopted our management services, that was really the value driver for him in expanding his catalog with us. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
2 more questions here. So the first one, I'll start with, can we get a copy of the presentation? So again, you will get a recording of this, but just want to see if you're happy for us to share the presentation deck as well.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And the final question here, so should I be sending my clients to Ramini Street for their extended support since I do customizations of their systems?
Huh. Yes. Yeah. Of course you should be sending your clients.
There
So
you go, Donna.
yeah, keep in mind, right? With our managed services catalog, we continue to enhance. So when we inherit these systems, there's a lot of data interfaces to third-party applications, right? As a part of an ERP system, there's always an ecosystem of data interfaces. So we continue to enhance these data interfaces, right? Through data fixes or making sure that they're working. That's a big part of our managed services. So you can continue to customize. Many of our clients are moving to more of a zero code, right? Or low code type of a model. That's in trend right now. So, but it's not like there's not a lot of innovation. We just tend to give you more working capital, right? And more headroom and really accelerate your digital agenda. So there you go.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
So you said it right there, IT strategies to accelerate digital transformation. And that's how we started, that's how we end. So thank you very much. Just want to say thank you, Anne, and ask the audience, wherever they may be, to join me in a virtual round of applause for you. Fantastic insights. Really great you appreciate sharing the case studies as well. We know how much that resonates with the audience. So I know they'll greatly appreciate that candidness. So thank you very much.